Hello, all. It is Monday, June 14th, about 1:04 a.m. He was ready to answer the next question, which is what happens to our pets when they transition. So, yes, we must begin by defining what is a pet. Now, in the minds of most of you, you think of a pet as such as a dog or a cat, perhaps a bird, a hamster, a fish, a ferret. But in reality, you see, there can be a wide range of pets. Some keep ant farms, and so you could say that an ant is a pet. You could also understand that some people keep what would normally be called a wild animal, and they keep them as a pet. Those who work in zoos, even though they are not, in conventional terms, considered pets, may consider the animals that they work with every day in terms of the same closeness as one might have with a pet. So, when you are asking how does a pet transition, what are the stages of transition for a pet, there are, as I'm sure you have come to understand by now, there are several answers. There is not one answer. This, of course, is the way of all creation, if you will, that there is never, ever only one, not under any circumstances for any question are you going to find one answer. Now, with animals, first we would like to discuss the similarities. And we are going to say that animals, while somewhat different in consciousness than a human being, it's really not as far away as you might think. This is especially so of animals that you would consider to be closer, such as mammals or maybe even lizards, not so much the insects, which is another topic altogether, but because they are living and breathing just like you. Their main purposes in life as a physical being is to reproduce and to survive, which is true of all living species. So you have that in common. Now, in terms of what most animals experience in terms of life and death, there is an awareness in most animals that many people say they don't have. They say, oh, an animal doesn't understand that it is alive and that at some point it will die. And this is not true. They understand that perfectly well. But they do not live in fear of it, and they will often readily sacrifice themselves that others in the animal kingdom will continue to live. So it is not a fearful event for an animal to pass. This does not mean that animals do not feel fear, because they certainly do. Fear of pain and anger, etc., should not so much another animal inflict pain on them, but in most cases it would be a human. That they fear not only because of the pain that might be inflicted upon them, but because they understand the harm this kind of treatment does to the human being. Now, many animals will share a certain amount of themselves with a human. That is not to say that they merge with a human, but they may take on certain characteristics of a human so that they can experience to some small degree what it feels like to be a human being. Now, we also wish to discuss transmigration of souls in this course of our discussion. Now, when a human dies, if this human wishes to reincarnate and does not go to a different physical reality or to a non physical reality, it will stay a human being. With animals, this is more flexible. That is not to say that a cat or a dog will become an insect, or a spider or a dog will become a lion or tiger, but they may wish to experience a different form, so that it is not necessarily true that a cat will reincarnate as a cat, although in most cases this will be true. Now, other forms of life, such as insects, are often only a portion of their species. In other words, if you have one insect or one fish, say, uh, depending upon where that fish is in the scale, they may or may not be a total energy, a total personality of their own. They may be only a portion of that personality essence. So it's difficult to cover the entire realm of animals in a short period of time. Now, in terms of the passing of an animal, mm, again, because the types of animals that you are most interested in are not all that dissimilar from humans, you will find that when they transition, it's not all that different from the way a human transitions. They will be aware that they are no longer in the physical. They may wish to stay around for a little while with the person who has cared for them, or they have cared for during their lifetime. So you may sense them in some way. You may hear them, you may feel them, you may see, for example, say you had a dog who always slept on the bed with you. You may see one evening that the mattress tends to bend down as if the dog were lying there still. And we say to you, well, yes, he is lying there still. He has not wished to depart from you. He has wished to stay with you to some degree before passing on to another non physical experience or to another physical experience. Now, there have been some romantic type movies that show an animal reincarnating and staying with the same person. So, in other words, say you have a cat that has passed on, and then in a short period of time, you get a kitten. And in this film or in this fantasy, that kitten is the reincarnation of the cat that you lost. And so throughout your life, you basically have the same pet over and over again, except for physical differences. Now, this does not happen in the majority of cases. We would say anything like this is so rare as to be considered never, that it never happens. Uh, However, as we have said many times, nothing can be discounted because the choices in animals, just as in humans, the choices are theirs. And if you think, well, it's an animal, it can't make a choice, you are incorrect. It can make a choice. It just does it in a different way than a human does. It doesn't think in words. The animal doesn't say, oh, to itself, I think that I would like to reincarnate as a larger species of cat, and so I shall do that. And it doesn't say, oh, I wish to stay with my owner throughout the centuries. When they reincarnate, I will reincarnate. No, that is not how it happens. They have a much different way of assessing what is going to happen to them, what they are going to do when they transfer over. Now, these types of associations and energy exchanges are so vastly different from what most humans understand that to put it in words and to explain it to you in a way that you can understand is almost impossible. The closest we would say you can get is if you have a pet now that you feel very close to or that you love very much, we would say, consider sending energy and receiving energy from that animal in an attempt to understand better how they perceive reality. For their perceptions will be very different to yours. Mm, Now, one moment, please. Oh, yes. There are also uh, this fantasy of the rainbow or whatever it is called, where the animal passes and it crosses a rainbow bridge or something and it goes to animal heaven. And so, because you understand there is not heaven in the religious sense, uh, for humans, the same is true of animals. There is no heaven, there is no hell, there is only their experience and their shifting experiences. And some will transition quite rapidly and move on to other types of energetic experiences, and some will stay a while. So we hope that this answers the core of your questions. And if it does not, go ahead and let this one know, and we'll see if there is more that we can add to this to give you more clarity. So, good evening to you. Okay, uh, let me know if you have questions.